You're watching Money in Tech. I'm Perianne Boring at Inside Bitcoins NYC, and I'm joined by Ken Majmudar. He's the founder of Ridgewood Investments, and you're really a jack of all trade when it comes to Bitcoin. Let's start at Ridgewood. You're an investor there. Talk a little bit about your role and what you're doing in Bitcoin with Ridgewood.
Well, sure. We're not doing a lot in terms of Bitcoin specifically at Ridgewood, but Ridgewood is a long-term focused investment management firm that I founded 12 years ago. And because I have a computer science background, the way that this evolved was I was reading about Bitcoin almost every week last year. And at some point, I was not satisfied because I felt like a lot of the articles I was reading said the same thing and they were kind of superficial. So sort of towards the middle of last year, 2013, I picked up some interest to try to really delve into and understand what this thing called Bitcoin was. And it took me a little while, but once I got it, my next reaction was sort of the light bulb went off and I had an immediate reaction, wow, this is really, really ingenious and it's this incredible innovation. And then I started mining, just personally, and that led me down a chain of where now I've looked at a number of the companies in the space, I've made some investments in the space, and it's way too early and too speculative for me to do it, for my clients. But it is something that I'm very actively involved in advising companies in the space. And basically, I do believe that it represents an amazing innovation in the payments, at least, among other things. And it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out over time. And I'm just happy to have a sort of a front row seat.
And you also mentioned that you're mining altcoins. Can you talk a little bit about how you choose which coin you're going to mine and which ones are you looking at now?
Sure. Yeah, well, actually, because one of the companies I'm involved with is this company called Cryptsy.com, which is an altcoin exchange. But the way that I got involved was when I was reading all those articles, then I finally understood what Bitcoin was. The next thing I did was I downloaded a program onto my PC at home. This was circa September of last year. And I said, let me mine Bitcoins. This is great. I can make Bitcoins on my computer. So it took me a little while and I got it all set up. And then I ran it for like 3 days. And it was like 0.00, it was like less than the electricity I had burned. So I said, okay, this is not that great. And then what I did was I went onto eBay and I had looked up this other thing. I said, there's this other thing called litecoin. So it seemed kind of intuitive to me. I said, well, if Bitcoin, now everybody's mining Bitcoin and it's very hard, there must be this other thing. I didn't even know about it, but I said there must be something else like it that somebody created that would be easier to mine. And then I looked and I said, there's this thing called Litecoin, which I'd never heard of. So I said, let me go mine that. And then I said, but I need a more powerful computer. I went on eBay, and right at that time, the Litecoin price had fallen, and all these people were disgusted. So they were selling their mining equipment for like 50% off. And so being a true value investor, I bought it on eBay, and then I just set it up and I started mining it. And so what I do is actually, there's these mining pools, they're called, where you can go and you point your computer at those pools and they will actually switch based on what's going on with the difficulty and the prices. So like I use a pool right now called Multipool that integrates with Cryptsy. And so I just point my miners there. And the nice thing is that when you mine there, if I had that same amount of computing power pointing to mine Bitcoin directly, I would only get like 1/40th of 1/20th to 1/40th of the Bitcoins with that same capacity. But if I go and mine the altcoins and then I have them sent to Cryptsy.com and sell them at Cryptsy for Bitcoin, guess what? I end up with 20 times as much as I would by mining Bitcoin directly. So it's pretty cool.
And as an investor, Bitcoin is very volatile. It's one of the biggest criticisms of Bitcoin. How do altcoins contribute to that?
I think they contribute by being even more volatile than Bitcoin. I think the whole area.
There's things out there.
Yes, well, I think it's very speculative. So I think that anybody who thinks that Bitcoin is an investment, I think you sort of have to really think hard about whether that's sort of correct or not. I mean, in some ways it could be, in the sense that if Bitcoin represents a true payments innovation, like something that will really make a big difference in the world, let's say 5 or 10 years from now. Like I think there's this show called Almost Human, which I haven't seen, where like everybody in the future is using Bitcoin, right? So obviously, if that happens, then maybe it's possible that someday we'll look back and say today's price of Bitcoin, roughly 450 or whatever it is, will be cheap. But I mean, a year ago when I got involved, it was only like $100 a Bitcoin. So it's already gone up a lot. But it might also not be around. It could be replaced by another thing that's even more innovative or whatever. So technology is very volatile. So I would say that, at least the way I look at it, it's not something you'd want to put any real significant money into, unless you really understand that it's volatile or whatever. And that's what I said. It's like it's not something I would invest my clients' money in.